girl, how are you? I'm just having a little breakfast. Onyx was being kind of cute, so we thought we'd turn on the camera. Hi, Jade. How's everyone's morning going? Hi, Amir. Hi, Frankie and friends. We're doing good. How are you? Are you having a good morning up there in Cali? It's warming up here today. I think it's going to be in the 20s or 30s as opposed to the negatives, so I'll take it. Beautiful outside. What's the temp over there? Watch you say like 50 degrees. Yeah, I think I know the other day it was in the negatives. It was in the negatives and it felt like -11 with the wind and everything. But I think our Arctic blast has passed. 41, one of my lucky numbers. 40, 41. You want to know what's interesting? So 41's always been one of my lucky numbers because I got that number as a kid when I tried out for some team and I got picked for the select team. And the number they gave me was 41. So that was always my lucky number. And I'm like, what a random number. You know, why, like, since when do they give numbers that high for sports teams? But the other day, I was going to microwave something, and it had 11 seconds on the clock, and I added 30 seconds, and I'm like, oh my gosh, 11 plus 30 is 41. And my birthday is November 30th, 11:30. So I thought that was a pretty cool connection. I get into numerology, and I don't know, I believe that, you know, our God and our angels communicate with us through numbers to let us know that we're on the right track or they're watching us. So, yeah, it was in that moment that I'm like, oh my gosh, 11 plus 30 is 41. My birthday is 11:30. My lucky number is 41. This is all meant to be. Like I'm on the right track. I'm where I need to be right now. So that's my little story. And 11 is also a lucky number and an angel number for me, right? I talked a little bit about 1111, just the number 11. So I don't know. I think it's cool. That's my birth month. You might know a little bit more about that. Did you get to the library yesterday? I was gonna offer to like do a little work session, see if you wanted to like chat on a Zoom call or something, or face chat, and both be productive. And then I realized I had to work early. I don't usually work until later, but somebody scheduled a earlier appointment, so good thing I thought about that because I would have missed that. When I'm with you, need a spotlight on you, Ani. Can't see you. I need to go be productive today. Onyx. Thank you, Zizi. Luna, you just woke up and tooted at the same time. What a special dog you are. What a special dog you are, you big tootie. Big toot. Ew, stink. You stink. I'm not giving you any more bacon. Oh, Luna. Oh my gosh, you smell rotten. Ugh. Gross. Gross, gross, gross. Go get him, Zizi. Go get him. Go get him, honey. Get him. Good morning. Good morning. Get him. Get him. Go get that kitty. What's him doing? Not her. Not her, babe. Luna's fine. Luna's just waking up. Why are you messing with her? Poor baby. Poor baby. Her just waking up. Why are you messing with her? Why are you messing with her? Whoa, sorry. Right in the eyeball. Right in the eyeball. Look, go get Onyx. Go get him. Go get the Onyx. Go get the Onyx. Go get him. Go get him. Go get that kitty. Go get that little kitty. Go get him. Go get him. You go get him. No, okay. You want to get me? All right, all right. All right. Should we do a little morning reading? Okay, a little morning reading. Let's see. How could I snooze and miss the moment? You're just too important. Nobody like you do. Can't do another with you. How can I snooze and miss the moment? You're just too important. Nobody. In the drop top ride with you, I feel like Scarface. The white girl with the bob, I'll be your main one. Mm-hmm. Hi, Coco. Hi, Coco is my dog. Wait, what's your dog's name? Just kidding. Coco, such a cute name. Coco. I'm in love with the Coco. I do remember you. After I said, that's a cute name, I'm like, wait a second, I think I remember Coco was my dog. I think I remember. You'll have to refresh my memory a little bit, and then I'll remember. So Coco is your dog. What kind of dog is Coco? Oh, you did ask to see my kitty's claws. Yeah. Thank you. I remember that for sure. Okay. How are you doing, Coco is my dog? I think I'm going to read. A Bichon Frise in his breed. 100% spelled it wrong. Oh, you're good. I think that's actually how you spell it. A Bichon Frise. Oh, Luna. My dog Luna keeps on tooting. It stinks. All right, I thought we'd start today with a little book reading, and I'll kind of check in and see what you're typing too. I really want to finish this book. I went to the store with my neighbor. She freaks out if she leaves Wednesday for 5 minutes. I love it. Excuse me. Gotta love those super anxious pet owners. I can kind of tell she has high anxiety when I watch your stream with her. But I do appreciate a very protective dog owner. And I think, sometimes I think you are right. When we have breeds like a Cane Corso or a Pit Bull or, German Shepherd or something, I mean, you do have to be aware of their size and the stigma and, like, not feed into, activities that might bring out the worst parts of the breed or something. So I can understand her maybe caution a little bit, and I can tell sometimes you're like, lady, it's fine, it's okay, let's let him play. So good. God love our anxious friends, right? The best part about having an anxious friend is it makes your anxiety feel so much smaller, puts everything into perspective. But what store did you guys go to? Oh God, the thoughts in your mind when they're alone. I know, I think about that sometimes too. I need to get my Blink cameras going. What I really want to do is get an extra phone or iPad or something so I can start streaming on here for you guys. So when I leave, I can just turn on the YouTube stream. You guys can all enjoy and watch it. I can pop on and watch it. Help me meet my goals that I have on here. So it'd be like a win-win. So that's what I'm working on. I have a couple friends that might have some extra devices. So I think one of these days you might be seeing some 8-10 hour streams. I don't usually leave them that long. I never leave them that long. So realistically, like a 5 or 6 hour stream, but maybe longer. Do, 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 do. I have that song Snooze by SZA in my head. Snooze and miss the moment. I'm not a singer either. I'm just humming or singing in my own little way. So I'm not claiming to be some amazing singer. So, no critiquing, please. I just have this song in my head that I can't get it out. How can I snooze and miss the moment? You're just too important. Nobody do honey like you do. And ooh, she's such a pretty voice. I love SZA. Nobody do. Oh, that wasn't good. Oh, that wasn't good. That was off the tongue. Alright, it doesn't matter how well you sing, it's just that you sing. Okay, I'm going to read a few pages from Eleanor Roosevelt, You Learn by Living, 11 Keys for a More Fulfilling Life. I love Eleanor Roosevelt. She's one of my role models. She paved the way for women's rights, women's suffrage movement, children's rights. She loved animals. She is my kind of human. So, how about you guys post up? All right, no, of course not. Why would you post up? That'd make it way too easy for me. Biba's posted up. Let's put the camera on you, little kitty. Today, all eyes on you, Biba girl. All eyes on me. Now we're dropping some Tupac. Over the years, I have received hundreds of thousands of letters. At the present time, about 100 a day. The vast majority of them contain questions that run the gamut from the personal problems that beset us all to the world problems that now and henceforth all beset us all. What these letters added up to was this: what have you learned from life that might help solve this or that difficulty? Of course, no one is equipped with such wisdom. No one is adequate to give such blanket answers. No one finds ultimate solutions, but the questions are questions we all meet in our lives. They are questions we must all answer in some way, not with finality, for life is too fluid, too alive for that. So I've been forced to stop and think through some of the questions, to try and find my own answers, to discover what I have learned by living. When one attempts to set down in bald words any answers one has found to life problems, there is a great risk of appearing to think that one's answer is either the only one or the best one. This, of course, would be nonsense. I have no such all-inclusive wisdom to offer, only a few guideposts that have proved helpful. To me in the course of a long life. Perhaps they may steer someone away from the pitfalls into which I stumbled, or help them to avoid mistakes that I have made. Or perhaps one can learn by one's own mistakes. The essential thing is to learn. Learning and living. But they are really the same thing, aren't they? There's no experience from which you can't learn something. When you stop learning, you stop living in any vital and meaningful sense. And the purpose of life, after all, is to live it, to taste experience to the utmost, to reach out eagerly and without fear for newer and richer experiences. You can do that only if you have curiosity, an unquenchable spirit for adventure. The experience can have meaning only if you understand it. You can understand it only if you have arrived at some knowledge of yourself, a knowledge based on a deliberately and usually painfully acquired self-discipline, which teaches you to cast out fear and frees you for the fullest experience of the adventure of life. My own life has been crowded with activity and best of all with people. I have seen them wrest victory from defeat. I have seen them conquer fear and come out strong and free. I have seen them empty... Cece, come on, babe. I have seen them empty lives into full and productive ones. I honor the human race. When it faces life head on, it can almost remake itself. One's philosophy... Athena's chewing on the corner of the book. We don't eat book corners, honey.
One's philosophy is not best expressed in words. It is expressed in the choices one makes, in stopping to think through the meaning of what I have learned. There is much I believe intensely, much I am unsure of, but this at least I believe with all my heart. In the long run, we shape our lives and we shape ourselves. The process never ends until we die, and the choices we make are ultimately our own responsibility. Hyde Park, January 1980, or I'm sorry, 1960. Oh, I love Ace Hardware. I love the smell of Ace Hardware. Oh, Zizi, you're such a little busy bee, honey. You know what? You can find a nice spot to lay down right here. This is a good spot right here. Come on. Get your little furry butt over here. Come on, right here. Good. Stay there. Stay there. Stay right there. Honey. Bubba. Okay, learning to learn. You guys. Come on. Oh, good grief. Okay, all right. Can we not, please? You guys. Can you do that like further away from me so I can just relax and read my book in peace? Oh my goodness. Get back. You're something else. Just stop. See, lay down, you little bumblebee. Goodness. One of the most intriguing questions that comes to me in the mail is, how did you plan your career and how did you prepare for it? I always feel perfectly inadequate to answer this because I never planned a career and never prepared for it. To this day, I do not feel I have had a career. What I have done is to live every experience to the utmost. As I look back, I think probably the factor which influenced me the most in my early years was an avid desire, even before I was aware of what I was doing, to experience all I could as deeply as I could. I must have been no more than 5 when I went on a trip to Italy with my father and mother. In Venice, my father invited me to ride in a gondola, and he paid the gondolier to sing. Some sort of fiesta was going on at the time, and people were tossing flowers. I can still remember that ride. Baby that I was, I had the sense to feel it as an experience. Everything I did with my father remains in my memory today, a vivid moment not to be forgotten. I remember standing on the edge of Vesuvius with him while he threw in a penny, which came back covered with lava. There was excitement and wonder in that. He took me through the ruins and showed me a petrified loaf of bread and told me how a long-vanished civilization had lived. But it wasn't dead history. It became vivid to me. These were living people, and as I learned about them, they seemed as real as the ones about me. What I have learned from my own experience is that the most important ingredients in a child's education are curiosity, interest, imagination, and a sense of adventure of life. You will find no courses in which these are taught, and yet they are qualities that make all learning rewarding, that make all life zestful, that make us seek constantly for new experiences and deeper understanding. They are also the qualities that enable us to continue to grow as human beings to the last day of our life and continue to learn. By learning, of course, I mean a great deal more than so-called formal education. Nobody can learn all he needs to know. Education provides the necessary tools, equipment by which we learn how to learn. The object of all our education and development, which is a part of education, is to give every one of us an instrument which we can use to acquire information at any time that we need it. I remember certain milestones in learning how to learn. As far as training my memory was concerned, that began very young. I loved poetry, and I would often learn it while I was dressing and undressing. When I was quite young, I had a French teacher who made us learn by heart a good part of the New Testament in French. This was helpful later when I was in a French school in England. The French mistress had us listen to her read a French poem of perhaps 8 lines and repeat it after the first reading. At first I could not do it, but gradually I was able to manage fairly well. She taught us history And though we were only 15 or 16, I imagine her methods were more like those of a college professor. We sat on little chairs on either side of her fireplace, over which maps were hung. She would turn to the map of the area of the world we were learning about and tell us to remember our geography because it affected history. Then she would give us a list of books to read and take up the particular point we were studying, giving us many different lights on the period as she thought we could understand. Our requirement was to do our reading and then write a paper on the assignment. The English girls were apt to remember what she had said and repeat it in their papers. I can still see her, as one of the girls was reading her paper aloud, standing over her with a long ruler in her hand, taking away the paper and tearing it up. "You are giving me back what I gave you," she said, "and it does not interest me. You have not sifted it through your own intelligence. Why was your mind given to you? Why was your mind given you but to think things out for yourself?" It became a challenge for me to think about all the different sides of the situation and try to find new points that Miss Sylvester had not covered, points that had not even been covered in our books. It was rather exciting to have these questions come up in my mind as I read, and I can remember how pleased I was when she asked me to leave my paper with her and later returned it with the comment, "Well thought out, but have you forgotten this or that point?" That was an imaginative method of education and most valuable. We obtain our education at home, at school, and most important, from life itself. The learning process must go on as long as we live. Nothing alive can stand still. It goes forward or back. Life is interesting only as long as it is a process of growth. Or to put it another way, we can only grow as long as we are interested. For some years now, there has been considerable conflict in educational circles about what and how children should be taught. The old system was to serve two purposes: to discipline the mind and provide young people with a background of knowledge about the past, history, philosophy, and the arts. More recently, the influence of Dewey has been powerful in affecting the change of orientation. It is not so important, according to the school, to provide the child with a background of general culture. The essential thing is to relate every fact learned to the tangible world around him. The purpose of his education is to explain to him the things he can feel and see and touch and experiences in his daily life. Carried to an extreme, the progressive method has not yet attempted to direct the child in any direction in which he does not want to go. Unless he enjoys it or sees value in it, he is not forced to accept the discipline. Both methods have their value, of course. It is useful to relate the child to his immediate surroundings, to have him understand them and their functioning. It is never enough, it seems to me, to teach a child mere information. In the first place, we have to face the fact that no one can acquire all there is to learn about any subject. What is essential is to train. What is essential is to train the mind so that it is capable of finding facts as it needs them. Train it to learn how to learn. If later on a child must acquire a foreign language, he should have a background of training to enable him to sit down and concentrate, mastering the language. If he must do research, he should have discipline and training in how to do research. It is not enough to have done one or more pieces of research. He must have mastered the technique. The essential thing is that he is so trained that he can use his mind as a tool, a supplement instrument to dig out the facts as he needs them. But facts, after all, are a comparatively small part of education. They are a small part of the thing broadly known as culture. Every now and then, I receive rather pathetic letters from young women who have married men who either have come from a different background or have climbed fast in their professional careers and belong to cultural worlds in which the young wives feel alien. How, they ask me, can I educate myself so that I will fit in with my husband's family and friends what I ought to learn? I answer them the best I can, inadequately, I'm afraid, because it is difficult to give anyone a list of books which in themselves would provide him or her with culture. I tell them that they should read at least a few of the classic translations of the Greek philosophers and some of the old Greek plays. They can read books on history and art and philosophy and biography. They should be familiar with some of the best fiction. All of these, of course, will add to their background and give them at least a glimpse of intellectual framework of our past. But the answer must go further than that. What counts in the long run is not what you read. It is what you sift through in your own mind. It is the ideas and impressions that are aroused in you by your reading. It is the ideas stirred up in your own mind. The ideas which are a reflection of your own thinking, which make you an interesting person. Book education cannot accomplish this by itself. It needs the supplement and the stimulus of the exchange of ideas with other people. In particular, it means learning from other people. There's no human being from whom we cannot learn something if we are interested enough to dig deep. As a young woman, I was very conscious that I did not have a formal education of the kind many children in the United States have had. Okay, I'll take you outside. Okay. I just finished this chapter, please. As a young woman, I was very self-conscious that I did not have a formal education of the kind many children in the U.S. have. I did not realize that my mother had given me one thing that was going to be useful all the rest of my life. She had made me learn French before I learned English by the simple device of providing me with a French nurse. I learned both languages simultaneously, and though I have at times gone for long periods without reading or speaking French, it takes only a short time to pick it up again when I hear it spoken constantly. That gave me a taste for languages, and though, like many other children, I was bored by Latin, which was considered essential at the time, and I cannot say that Caesar's Gallic wars were ever very interesting, I soon came to discover that in the thing which I greatly enjoyed, the acquiring of languages, Latin was a positive help. I had studied in private classes until I was sent abroad for 3 years in English and French education. On the whole, it was a good education in some ways, almost on a college level, but it was different. When I came home, I was aware that there were great gaps in my knowledge. I married very young and came into a different atmosphere and began to meet a great variety of people. Knowing my own deficiencies, I made a game of trying to make people talk about whatever they were interested in and learning as much as I could about their particular subject. After a while, I had acquired a certain technique for picking their brains. It was not only great fun, but I began to get insights into many subjects that I could not possibly have learned about in any other way. And best of all, I discovered vast fields of knowledge and experience that I had hardly guessed existed. This, I think, is one of the most effective and rewarding forms of education. The interest is there, lurking somewhere in another person. You have only to seek it. It will make every encounter a challenge, and it will keep alive one of the most valuable qualities a person has: curiosity. Ruth Bryan Rode once told me that she found it very useful, if she was sitting next to a person whose interests she knew nothing about, to begin going through the alphabet. It's easy. Come on, girl. A is for ants. Mr. Jones, are you interested in the life of ants? He might not be interested in the ant, but at least he was startled and amused. At the time, the idea entertained me, though I doubted that it would ever serve my purpose, but a time came when the alphabet saved me from sitting in utter silence through a whole meal. My husband and I were landing at Boston with President and Mrs. Wilson after the conference from which the President was bringing the first draft of the League of Nations Treaty. Governor and Mrs. Calvin Coolidge met the President and his wife. Suddenly, we were informed that President Wilson would have to speak that afternoon, so it was impossible for him to have lunch with the governor as the latter had been planned. My husband and I were to go as substitutes. I saw my husband was having a perfectly delightful time at the other end of the table with Mrs. Coolidge, who was talkative and gracious. I struggled with a partner who never did anything but grunt. I tried every letter of the alphabet, but I did not succeed in startling Governor Coolidge, let alone amusing him, no matter how outrageous the subject I suggested. As I remember it, we finished our dessert in absolute silence, and I had exhausted the alphabet. I was most uncomfortable, but he was quite happy. He preferred to eat in peace and quiet, and he saw no reason for saying a word. There is a wonderful word, why, that children use. All children, when they stop using it, the reason too often is that no one bothered to answer them. No one tried to keep alive one of the most important attributes a person can have: interest in the world around them. No one fostered and cultivated the children's innate sense of the adventure of life. One of the things I believe most intensely is that every child's why should be answered with care and with respect. If you do not know the answer, and you often will not, then take the child with you to a source to find the answer. This may be a dictionary or an encyclopedia, which he is too young to use himself, but he will have had a sense of participation in finding the answer. But if you brush aside the eager question, the only way that a child has of learning to understand this world and say, I don't know, don't bother me, can't you see I'm busy? Or worse still, what a silly question. Something bad will happen in time. Excuse me. If the child's curiosity is not fed, if his questions are not answered, he will stop asking questions. And then, by the time he is in his middle 20s, he will stop wondering about all the mysteries of the world. His curiosity will be dead. For curiosity, interest, and a longing to know more and more types of experience are the qualities that stimulate a desire to know about life and to understand it. They provide the zest that makes it possible to meet any situation as an adventure. Without that spirit of adventure, life can be dull and businesslike. With it, there's no situation, however limiting, physically or economically, which cannot be filled to the brim with interest. Indeed, without interest, it is almost impossible to continue to learn. Certainly, it is impossible to continue to grow. Now and then, I am surprised to read of the death of someone I have known, because I thought he or she had died long ago. Actually, he had only stopped growing. Other people against tremendous handicaps continue to grow. I am thinking especially of one of my aunts, Miss Cowles. She became so helplessly crippled by arthritis that she could not move. Every day she was dressed and lifted into a chair where she remained until she was put to bed at night. Then her hearing began to fail. In time, she was almost completely deaf. The mechanical hearing aids of today were unknown. She had a crude sort of box placed on a table before her, in which she shouted in it in order to be heard. She might have become an ingrown, self-pitying, invalid dependent for everything on the people around her, with her interests enclosed with a narrow cycle of herself, but she didn't. There was not a young member of the family who would not have traveled any distance to be with her. Into that box on the table were shouted their confidences, their problems, their doubts, and their anxieties, and always they met with a response. She did not burden them or herself with her own bitter handicaps. She turned all of her attention outward upon her young visitors. She was genuinely interested. She had a keen desire to know about them, to understand their difficulties, to help them find a way of coping with their dilemmas. She had a broad understanding and wisdom that was both sympathetic and kind, and she had a rare quality. She could listen. We all know the frustrating experiences of trying to talk out a problem and discovering that our chosen confidant is giving us only divided attention, or frankly thinking of something else, or waiting to get in a word about problems that he or she is experiencing on their own. But you could talk to my aunt knowing she really listened, and she was trying to understand that if you wanted advice, she would call on her wisdom to help you. This is rare to find. So many older people, particularly in dealing with the young, feel that they know all the answers. They don't discuss things with you. They tell you, but my aunt kept until her death the elasticity of her mind, though she had so long lost the elasticity of her body. Today, many old people who were young in those days and went to her for advice and understanding still wonder, in a dilemma, what she would have said, what she would have advised, and are aware of the ever-recurring sense of loss that she can no longer tell them. What made my aunt rare and useful is that she can only be explained, I think, by the fact that she never lost her curiosity, her interest was never dimmed, and she still reached out for new experiences and welcomed them. Without those qualities, she could never have managed to continue to grow and to increase in a depth of understanding, nor could she have been, as she was, in spite of crippling handicaps, a happy woman. Her younger sister, Mrs. Douglas Robinson, was a poet. Perhaps she has no claim to live among the immortals, but she wrote some things I still like to read about those that she loved. She wrote with astonishing insight. During the First World War, she wrote a poem about Miss Cowles called Soldier of Pain, which epitomized my aunt. Not in the trenches torn by shot and shelling, not on the plain, bombed by the foe, but calm and umbrelling, soldier of pain. Facing each day, head high with gallant laughter, anguish supreme, what accolade in the divine hereafter shall this redeem? Through the long night of racked, recurrent waking till the long day, fraught with distress brings the same heartbreaking front for the fray. From the poems of Corinne Roosevelt Robinson, published by Charles Schwenner's son. In a far land of our nation's patriots willing, fought and now lie, but as you are brave, a hard fate fulfilling, dare not die. One thing life has taught me, if you are interested, you never have to look for new interests. They come to you. They will gravitate as automatically as a needle to the north. Somehow, it is unnecessary in any cold blooded sense to sit down and put your hand in your hands and plan them. All you need to do is be curious, receptive, eager for experience. There's one strange thing. When you are genuinely interested in one thing, it will always lead to something else. It is here, I think, that the most important phase of education appears, in the capacity to learn from one thing you see, from each person you meet, and nothing you learn, however wide of the mark it may appear at the time, however trivial, is ever wasted. In all my life, nothing I have ever learned has failed to be useful to me at some point or another. Often, and in the most unexpected ways, in some quite unforeseen context. Okay, I think we'll wrap up there for the day. Okay, thanks for listening, whoever was there. Everybody have a great day. You are kind, you are smart, you are important, and you are loved. And we will see you later. Adios.